Hey y'all, welcome to or welcome back to our very bookish channel. My name's Amanda and I run this channel with my friend Jen, and we love to talk about books. And in this video, we are going to definitely be talking about books. We're talking about all of the books that we read, but we didn't vlog or share on any of our socials. Basically, all of the books we've read in July, August, and September that you don't know about.
Hey guys, welcome to our quarterly review. This time we are doing July, August, and September. And last time I had so many in my quarterly review that we had to separate and do separate videos. This time, not so much, because the books that I read that weren't in vlogs, I have only 9 books total to talk about today that weren't already in their own video. In this quarter, I read a total of 26 books, but only 9 of those are ones that you had no idea I read because I have not done any kind of vlog with them. And just to cover some statistics of where I am reading-wise for the year, I am recording this in October, and I have hit my yearly goal that I put on Goodreads. I have hit 100 books as of yesterday. But I did that in October. So through the end of September, I had 97 books read. A couple other things I like to look at are first-time authors that I've read. In this quarter, of the 26 books that I read, 11 of those are by authors I have never read before ever, which I thought was pretty good. I mean, it's almost half. And then year to date, of the 97, I had 43 authors that I have never read before. And that feels like a lot. I feel like I am definitely reading things outside of just the same, like, you know, Frida McFadden, Sophie Cousins, Jodi Picoult, like all the normal authors that I am drawn to. Every time they release a book, I am definitely reading them. But I am also reading authors I've never read before. And I try and also read things that are outside of my normal genre. I tend to love thrillers and fiction, literary fiction, but I do make sure I try and incorporate other things just to see what else is out there and just widen my tastes. You never know what you might like. There are many things that I didn't think I would like and I end up loving. Another thing to note is we are a little behind in getting videos posted. There've just been a lot of things on each of our plates. So there are books that I'm not going over that I have read that the videos aren't out yet. And some of those are, we have read a new Frida McFadden that doesn't come out until January. It's called Dear Debbie. And that one's going to have its own vlog coming out soon. We also had a Goodreads scroll that we did, and I have a book that you will see when that comes out, and you'll just have to wait and see what that is. I have 3 books myself, and I think Amanda has 2 in our Fall Cozy Reads, which I believe she should be posting soon, and that one will probably be out before this video, so at least that one will be out. There's also a TBR jar read vlog that we did, and there's another book from that, just one book from that, that will probably come out, I don't know, before or after this. The thing is, I don't know when this one will make it out, so maybe those videos will be out before this video comes out. Who knows? All right, I'm going to start. I can't remember how I made notes for the books that I read. I want to say they're in order of when I read them. So I'm sure these are the books from July until September in the order that I had read them on Goodreads when I was scrolling through and seeing which ones I needed to talk about. First one is the follow-up to The Wren and the Holly Library, and it's the Robin on the Oak Throne by K.A. Linde. I really enjoyed this one. I was pretty much a fan of the first one. Amanda didn't enjoy it quite as much as I did, but I really enjoyed the follow-up. It's, of course, a really Beautiful book as well. I gave this one 4 stars. It's the continuing story of Graves and Kierce, and it's a little on the spicy side, but not too much. The storyline had similar plot lines to Games Gods Play, but I had read that one first. So I think when I got to this one, it felt, sometimes when something feels a little too similar, I tend to not get as invested in it. But I feel especially the sequels are very different, and I don't feel anymore that I'm getting sick of one or the other. I really enjoyed this one a lot. But if I had to pick, I'd probably still pick Abigail Owen's The Games Gods Play. But this one was still very enjoyable as well. If you like romantasy and you like action adventure, I think this would be a great series for you as well. The next one is called You Deserve to Know by Aggie Blum Thompson, and it's a domestic thriller. I also enjoyed that one. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. It's very similar plot devices to Freida McFadden. I feel like there were a lot of plot twists in it, and I definitely felt invested in the story. I do enjoy domestic dramas. I also like Sherry LaPena, who tends to do a lot of them as well. And I think if you like thrillers and psychological thrillers, this one would definitely be one that you would want to check out. And just for a quick synopsis of that one, it's about neighbors that are in this like cul-de-sac who like to meet every Friday for like dinners. And one of the husbands ends up murdered. So they all end up looking at each other as to what was really going on. Secrets come out and you find out exactly what happened. It has like a typical domestic thriller plot line, but I very much enjoyed reading this one.
All right, y'all. So my list is very short because I moved. Yes, this is welcome to my basement. This is my new basement. I actually do have a room that is a designated library in my new house. So very excited. But right now it's kind of been a dumping ground for when we moved. It's just been this big space that we don't need right away. And everybody that helped us move has been moving our stuff and putting it in that room. So it is right now full of boxes and furniture that I still need to unpack. But I will discuss more about the move and the new house and all of that kind of content in our longer vlog form content. So keep your eye out for vlogs coming out if that's something that you're interested in, and make sure you're subscribed and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when we upload new videos. So like I said, I've been busy. Had a very, very busy summer, and my book list is very short, okay? I only read 3 books that I have not already talked about in vlogs. I tried to focus mostly on reading books for vlogs because in addition to reading the books, I also do edit the videos. So I have to keep up on all of that on top of remodeling and fixing up my old house to sell, buying a new house, and then moving. So it's been a very busy summer for me. But and also, oh my gosh, I almost forgot. I've been in the worst book slump of my life. Like, I was just not interested in reading. I didn't have the time to read. I couldn't focus on reading. The books weren't grabbing me. I was in a very, very terrible book slump. So only three this time. But first I want to talk a little bit about the DNFs. Okay. I do have 4 DNFs. The first one was Advent by Seth Ring. This is a lit LPG book. It's the second lit LPG, LRG, I'm not sure. It's the second book like this that I have read. And the first book was The Mage Farmer. And I can't remember the author, but I'll pop a picture up here on the screen so you can see it. I read that one all the way through. It was okay. Okay, it was kind of fun, but it was indifferent, but it was also just not really keeping my interest. And then Advent is the second book like this that I've tried to read. And these books, you're kind of like in a video game. You're following a character in a video game, and there's different things they need to do, different tasks they need to complete different people they need to protect, that kind of thing. And I had to DNF this one. It's not bad. It's not a bad. If that's your thing, you'll probably really like this series, but I just really couldn't get into it. It just wasn't for me. So I had to DNF that one. The second one I read was The Tainted Cup. And this book has been on my TBR for a very long time. It is a series. I know there's at least another book that's already out, the second book in the series. I don't know if the series is going to be more than a duology or not, but I don't know. I was just not interested in it. It was an interesting concept, and it was dark, and it seemed like something that I would want to enjoy, but I just felt the book was a little boring. I was just having a hard time connecting to the characters and really caring about what was going on. The third book I DNF'd was The Night Ends with Fire. I don't know, another book that I actually bought this book. Okay, I bought the hardcover, stenciled, sprayed edge edition of this book because I just thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna love this book. It's sort of a Milan retelling, and I thought that sounds fantastic. But again, I just couldn't stay interested in it. I felt like it was very boring. It was taking a really, really long time for anything to happen once you get past the initial part where she pretends to be a boy and joins the army. Once you get past that part, it's very slow. It just felt like it was dragging out and not much was happening. So I had to DNF that one. And the fourth book I DNF'd was actually a book Jen and I did a video on. One Viral Book, Two Opinions in Under 10 Minutes was 11/22/63 by Stephen King. I did have to DNF that one. That was way too literary fiction-esque for me. I just can't do literary fiction. I just get kind of bored. I do. It's just not snappy, sparkly. There's not as much thrills in the literary fiction genre, and every time I want to read and try to read a literary fiction, I end up reading, the first quarter to half of the book and then just zoning out and just not caring. So that's what happened with that one. I did talk about it, so if you do want to check out that video, you can go ahead. Jen had a very opposite reaction of me, okay? But Jen really does like literary fiction. So I thought that was one of our more interesting of the series, One Viral Book, Two Opinions in Under 10 Minutes. So go check that one out.
The next one was actually nonfiction. I know, shocking. I listened to this on audio. It's called The Future Was Now by Chris Nashawaty, I think. I hope I didn't butcher his name. This book was about the summer of 1982, and there were 8 movies that were huge blockbusters that forever changed movies in a lot of different ways. One of which I think is how much summer can be a blockbuster time for movies, and some of them were my favorite movies. E.T. is one of them by Steven Spielberg.
Can you say E.T.? E.T. E.T.
Poltergeist also.
Hello? They're here.
Steven Spielberg had produced it, and there's a whole backstory I never knew around that story that ties to E.T. And Star Trek The Wrath of Khan. I am a nerd for sure. I do prefer Star Wars, but my brother was a huge Trekkie, so I ended up seeing a lot of Star Trek. Other movies include The Thing, Blade Runner, Tron, and Mad Max. This book really read like fiction. It gives you a lot of cool backstories on some pretty epic movies, and I enjoyed listening to this a lot. I gave it 5 stars. So if I know nonfiction isn't everyone's cup of tea, but there are certain nonfictions I'm drawn to. I think especially if it's like biographical or memoir of people that I'm interested in, but I'm also a huge movie geek, so some of the books on movies are also ones that I enjoy as well. The next one wasn't as enjoyable. It was called Smile for the Cameras. I did listen to this on audio. It's by Miranda Smith. I ended up giving it 2 stars. There's something about some of the books that I have been drawn to around, there's a plot line that goes over how people that had done horror movies when they were younger, and then the actors, actresses come back together years later. Something had happened on set at the time. Either it was haunted or secrets around someone was killed or thought to be killed. And years later, they try and do a reboot, or they come together for some reason and secrets come out, more things happen. I keep getting drawn to these type of books, and I don't seem to find one that is really that I like. So I'm not sure, maybe I need to stop reading this, I guess you would call it a genre, but I also didn't like horror movie, and I'm forgetting, I want to say it's Paul Tremblay. I'll put it on the screen, I can't remember. But I don't know, it just wasn't doing it for me. I didn't really like the writing. I almost DNF'd it. I was very close to DNFing it, but something kept telling me that, oh, the ending is going to pull this all together and make this much better. And no, it did not at all. So 2 stars, wasn't enjoyable for me.
All right, so there were 3 books that I read completely through. The first book is The Sleepless by Jen Williams. I got an arc of that book, and it was a book that I thought was very interesting. I thought that the characters were okay. I didn't really feel real connected with them. I didn't really root for them, or really root against them, or really feel sad for them, or really feel happy for them. This book just didn't evoke a lot of emotions from me, but it was a good story. It was a good book, and it might have been me because, like I said, I was feeling slumpy and I was very distracted and busy this summer, so it might have been me. But this book was just average. I think I gave it 3, possibly 3.5 stars. And I'm not sure. I don't think it's a series. It didn't really end on any kind of big cliffhanger. If it is a series, I could see where the series could go forward if she wanted to write another book, but I don't know if there's another book planned for this or not. But if there is, I'm probably not going to continue, just because I have other things that I'm more interested in reading and more series that I really need to complete.
The next one I really wanted to like more. There were definitely moments that I did enjoy this book, and I thought it was really interesting. It's called The Farmhouse by Chelsea Conrad. And though I gave it 3 stars, I would say that it was like between 3 and 4 stars, which is a pretty solid book. But something about it cohesively, I felt there were times like it was too slow. And there were things that, it wasn't that it didn't make sense, it delved off into these things that I felt like didn't really need to be there, I guess. I don't know. There were definitely things that I loved about it too. It's more of a like thriller / horror, and it did a lot of, and I don't want to say because I don't want to ruin it, it was something different that I've never read in a book, and it reminded me kind of like David Lynch type territory, where things are almost not supernatural, but just unique and different and outside of the box. And I really wanted to give it like a 4 solid stars or 5 stars. I really wanted it to bring it home, and it didn't, but I did enjoy reading it. The next one was divisive for me. It's called Fox by Joyce Carol Oates. It's the first Joyce Carol Oates book that I've read, and seems like a tragedy because I love literary fiction. I probably should have read something by Joyce Carol Oates sooner. And this one, the subject is just, it's hard to like a book when it's about someone that is just a horrendous human being, and especially a horrendous human being and manipulative to children. And it's written really well in terms of it brings out a lot of emotions, and I feel that Joyce Carol Oates has a reputation in the literary world for a reason, because it is written very well. The downside to that, written so well that I just didn't want to read it sometimes. Like, it's very hard material to read, but I ended up obviously finishing it. It is a very long book as well. And I did a combination of both physical and audio for Fox. I ended up giving it 4 stars, but it was a reluctant 4 stars because of the subject material. There are things in it, and another friend of mine had read it, and we were just talking about it, and she really enjoyed it. But when I say really enjoyed it, obviously it's really hard to say that when the subject material is just rough to read. But I think what we really enjoyed is just how it's presented, how well written it was. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about it, but in general, there's a disappearance of a teacher, and then you end up seeing points of view of things that he has done, and I don't even remember if you actually ever find out what happened to him. I think it leaves it up to you to figure out what happened to him. I'm forgetting it. The problem with doing quarterly reviews is sometimes these books that we have read like a couple months ago, so it can be hard to remember exactly in books. Sometimes it's a miracle I remember things like a week later, let alone if it's something that I had read, a few months ago. I do remember very vividly just how creepy this book was. But if you really like well-written fiction, character development, and hard subject material doesn't necessarily bother you, then this is a book for you.
The next book I read was You Can Run by Rebecca Zanetti. I met Rebecca Zanetti at the Big Ohio Book Con. I loved One Dark Rose and One Dark Kiss. I just love those books. They are so fun. They are so entertaining. There's romance. There is the very protective touch her and you die MMCs, which I like. You're following 4 mafia families that run these tech empires, and they're enemies and compete, but then they kind of work together in some ways. I don't know. It's really good. It's just really good. I think, in my opinion, it is one of the most underrated romantasy series that's out there. It's super fun. I love them. I've read a lot of romantasy books, and I just find these very fun. And so I decided to read You Can Run by Rebecca Zanetti. And this is called a romance thriller or a romantic thriller. And I felt it was real heavy on the thriller side, not so heavy on the romance. This is the first book in the Laurel Snow series, though, so maybe in the remaining books that the romance heats up a little bit, but there was just the beginning maybe of a romance in this book. It wasn't real heavy on the romance. It takes place in a small town. In the winter, there's some missing girls, and there is a lead woman detective that is searching for them. And again, this book was sort of average for me. It's not a twisty-turny Frida McFadden style psychological thriller. It's more of a slow-paced detective thriller, more sort of in the veins of Karen Slaughter, maybe. Not as dark, not quite as intense as Karen Slaughter, but more along like a detective thriller type style book. And it was good. I liked the other series with One Dark Kiss and One Dark Rose better. But if romantasy is not your thing and you're more into thrillers, I think this is a solid book that you should try.
Next, I had the extreme pleasure of reading Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross. I gave it 5 stars. It's one of those books, the way she builds worlds and how she does characters. This book is tied to Divine Rivals and that world, and I especially enjoyed living in this world again with Wild Reverence. I read this as an electronic ARC, but it is out now, and I didn't do an ARC review because I read it after it had come out. But I absolutely adored this book. And there is a definite love story woven into the pages, and it's a very fantastical world. I can't tell you enough how much I enjoy Rebecca Ross and her writing and the worlds that she creates. And definitely 5 stars. It's going to be one of my favorite books from this year. Another book I have been waiting all year for, and I could not wait to read, and it came out in September, is The Secret of Secrets by Dan Brown. I am a huge Dan Brown fan. I've read Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons. I've read most of his. There's only 1 or 2 that I haven't read that released early in his career. But this one, I feel it did live up to some of my anticipation. I feel like it can be hard to really live up to the amount of anticipation you put on books. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I loved going back to the characters that he writes, especially Robert Langdon. Robert Langdon has been the main character in all his books. And there's another familiar character in this one that had shown up in a different book. And for the first time, Robert Langdon is more serious about a woman, and That's all I'll say about that. But I very much enjoyed this book, and it was very hard to finish it and know that, because it was 7 years since he put out a book. So I have a feeling I'm not going to get another book in that world for a while. And I love that book, but it's very much an adventure type thriller, not your psychological horror type thriller, but you're on an adventure type ride where Robert Langdon is trying to figure out clues to find someone who has gone missing. And it's because of a book that she wrote and the subject material that is in that book, and people don't want it out into the world. So it was a very interesting book. This one isn't as heavy on the code breaking as in his previous ones, but if you like those adventure type racing against time to try and find someone and still figuring out some clues, I think this one would be for you. But if you haven't read any of his books, I would definitely suggest like Angels and Demons or Da Vinci Code. Those two for sure are the best two of his books.
And finally, the third and final book that I read was Throne of Glass. And this was actually a reread for me. I want to read the entire Throne of Glass series. I have heard that the next book in the ACOTAR series is coming out. And for me, ACOTAR started out just okay, not so great. And the books got better and better and better until finally I just loved A Court of Silver Flames. I gave it 5 stars. So I'm really wanting to read all of the Sarah J. Maas books. I'm all caught up with ACOTAR. Now I'm jumping into the Throne of Glass series. I read this book the first time maybe a year ago, and I didn't remember a whole lot about it. So I wanted to reread it and then jump into the next book. So I'm going to try to read one Sarah J. Maas book a month until I get all caught up, all through the Throne of Glass series, all through Crescent City series, and then finally the next book in the ACOTAR series. So hopefully by the end of next year. I think like if I do one a month by the end of next year, I can be completely caught up. But who knows, maybe I'll get sucked in and have to read a couple. I know there's 2 books that I'm going to tandem read in the Throne of Glass series. So 1 month will be 2 books because I'll tandem read them. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but that's my plan. That's what I'm hoping for. That's my goal, okay? That's my goal for the Sarah J. Maas books.
Lastly, I read another literary fiction book, and it's called What We Can Know by Ian McEwan. I feel I had very high expectations for this. I really thought it was going to be similar to Anthony Doerr's Cloud Cuckoo Land, which is one of my favorite books of all time. And it was not. I did this to myself. I still think it was very well written and a very good book, but it was not anything like what I thought it was going to be. And sometimes that disappointment can taint your view of a book, and I hate when that happens. I ended up giving it 3 stars. I probably would have gave it less because of the disappointment, but I was trying to be realistic of what the actual book deserved. And this one is also told in 2 different time periods, and one takes place between 2000 and 2014, and then you are in the future, and I want to say it was in the 2100s, and it's about a poem that ended up being lost from a dinner party. The poet had read it to his wife, and the poem ends up going lost, and a lot of people are trying to find what happened to that poem, what happened the night of this dinner party. And the part of the 2100 is what you start off the book, and which also surprised me because I thought it would go linear in terms of time. And I probably thought that because of Cloud Cuckoo Land. But when you actually go to the time period of 2000 to 2014, and you find out the story pretty much of what happened to this poem and to these characters, I was a little shocked. I thought, okay, wasn't expecting that. And it was very interesting, the story that you get about the poem. And I feel like there were so many layers as to what he was saying about how we look at the past and how we make a determination of what happened, and we have no idea what really happened. A lot of times what we are thinking happened didn't really happen. And so I think there were a lot of interesting messages, and I was still though disappointed because I really wanted the book to hit me like Cloud Cuckoo Land, and it just did not. So that was the last book of the books that I had read in this quarter. Now we are in October, November, December. I don't anticipate getting as much read in these months. These are my busiest months in my work, and I don't think I get very tired. I don't have as much time, even in doing audio. I'm not going to be traveling as much in these months as well, so I won't have as much audiobook time. Last quarter will probably be as little as under 10 books. Might even be under 5. I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see what we do for the last quarter of the year in terms of a recap. Let us know what you have read so far this year that you absolutely love and that is probably going to top your 2025 books. Love seeing people say what their favorite books are of the year. It tends to influence me as to what I'm going to be reading for the rest of the year. I've already been building my TBR for November and December, and some of the books I'm putting on it are ones I've seen people raving about that have come out this year. I just love doing that. I tend to really want to pay attention to what people are raving about, and that's what I plan on reading. So let us know what books you have loved this year. Thanks for watching our quarterly review, guys, and until next time.